We're joined again by Emma from Essex Dog Training. Now, since we last did a video, we have done one since, but I forgot to turn the mic on. Since we last did a video, you come back from Crufts. You did really work Crufts.
Yeah, Crufts seems a long time ago now. That was in March. Went there with Kip. He came second in the Novice Cup, which is for small dogs. And Stacey took Herbie and Beth.
Yeah.
Beth. That was her last appearance at Crufts. She's now retired. She did really well. She came, I think it was second in the team event. But with Herbie, Stacey got onto the main ring for the Agility Dog of the Year. She did really well. He got fourth there. And as a result of that is now on the team Great Britain with the Kennel Club and is travelling out to Switzerland with them in July to compete with the country. So very, very exciting.
Well done, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brilliant. So we brought you in, as you know, we've said this time and time again, we know a lot about nutrition, but from a behaviour point of view, we don't claim to know much about, which is what you're here for. And one thing that comes to mind as well, which I get in the shop as well, is dogs jumping up.
Okay, yes. And generally I think it's smaller dogs rather than larger dogs.
Normally, yeah.
And a lot of jumping up is created from day one that people bring the puppy home. Or even, rescue dogs generally are a little bit more calmer and, you know, in general that is kind of a sweeping statement, but generally an older dog is a little bit more settled. But cute fluffy dogs generally have the biggest issues with jumping up. We very rarely do we bend down to the dog's level. So the puppy comes in, they come jumping up and we stroke them, and that happens. I've done a puppy visit today and it's so hard even as a trainer not to give that puppy attention for jumping up. So it's one of those things that is not about training, it's about giving your dog good manners from day one. There are lots and lots of things that you can do to avoid jumping up. And you, as an owner, have to set your own boundaries and how far you are prepared to go. Generally, I don't get a lot of big dogs that people, you know, they don't contact me with big dog problems that are jumping up unless they're scared. Lots of big dogs jump up if they're scared. They'll kind of come at you to kind of lick the mouth and that sort of thing. But and that is just simply because if you had something like a German Shepherd or a Rossi or something like that come bounding towards you, the last thing you are going to do is go hello and give it a big cuddle. So you're going to be more like, oh, I don't like it. The dog's not going to get a self-reward out of that, so it's not reinforced. So if you really want to stop your dog from jumping up, and let's say you've had that dog for a long time, you've kind of got to get new boundaries in place from day one, which means you've got to train everybody around you, which is really hard. If the dog is failing all the time, I would go so far as to put it on lead. I worked with a family once that had an illness develop in the household, and the dog was not allowed to jump up, and they'd always let it jump up, so we had to go really, really strict with that dog. It was on lead a lot of the time. Meet and greet situations were praised for 4 feet on the floor. If it was a situation that the dog couldn't cope with, it was removed from the situation so it couldn't practice the behaviour. Some dogs are really, really clever, so they'll kind of jump up to take sit to get the reward, so you have to be kind of quite cute with what you're doing. So leads by doors, like a hook next to the door is really handy, so you can put your lead on. If someone's coming in, I would put a little poster on my door saying please be patient with me, put the dog on a lead, put them in a sit, praise them for what they're doing, get the person to come in and ignore them, totally ignore them. It's not their visitor. You're my visitor until the point where the dog's calm, and then they can be let off leads. People out are the worst with little fluffy dogs.
Well, it's interesting actually, because that's what I was going to say, is take it to a really, really narrow example, because there won't be many people watching this who own pet shops.
No.
I do. So people come in with, like you said, normally cute fluffy dogs. They're jumping up at the same time saying to me, I'm very sorry, you shouldn't be jumping up. So what should I do?
Ignore the dog completely. First of all, people shouldn't set their dog up for failure. So if they know they've got a dog that's jumping up completely. You need a good management system for the dog. I generally would go like a harness with a front clip or something like that. Harnesses with the back clips, I tend to see dogs sledging, and they'll sledge and pull off of their back legs. So what happens is if the owner is standing there and doesn't remove themselves from the situation, eventually the person's going to come in and go, oh, it'll be okay, it'll be okay. So what they should, if they really want to get their dog out of it, first thing you should do is ignore it, completely ignore it, which is hard, you know, especially, you know, but we're not helping people. But, you know, I will laugh with my clients sometimes.
So when you say ignore it, so I'm standing there and the dog's jumping up. Right, okay. Just step back.
Walk away.
Probably shouldn't walk away from a customer.
Not from a customer, no. So I would if I was chatting to that person, I would say to them, why don't you take your dog just a little bit further back so that we can have this conversation. And this is, you know, I would set it up as a training scenario really. So they need to, have they done any training with their dog anyway? What do they want their dog to do instead? That has to be trained away from the situation. So if it's a sit, you've got to take that, and the dog's got to value that sit. If you're suddenly in, you know, a situation of high distraction, and the dog doesn't normally sit at home anyway, it's not going to suddenly do it. It's you know what I mean? So you've got to be training your dog anyway. Heel position, so right next to your leg, and your dog's got to be used to being there, used to being happy, and everything else, so that it's calm. From your point of view, if you do want to go and stroke the dog, make sure you go in at the dog's level so that your hands are low. But it's still it's still making it highly exciting for that dog, you know. So training classes and that sort of thing, we set up meet and greet situations where the dogs just learn to ignore the distraction. So
it must happen in the park, outside shops.
And that's why I said it's generally a small dog problem, because when you've got it twofold. So firstly, if a bigger dog that you're more kind of wary of, you're not going to go in quite so like, wow, that's so exciting. The other thing is, of course, is the dog is on your level, so it doesn't have to jump. So you're stroking the dog and it's kind of here, as opposed to us being lazy and not bending down to stroke the dog. And in the park, if a dog is running in, so lots of little dogs will run in and jump up at people, and you know, I get that all the time. That dog needs to go on long line, because the more it practices the behaviour, the better it will get at it, and the more you'll have to train it. So whenever I've got a behaviour issue, I kind of look at what the dog's getting out of it. So first of all, it's running off from you. Now, if you're not interacting with your dog on your walk, that's problem number one. Secondly, whatever happens at the other end could be highly successful. So it could have a play with another dog. If it's somebody that's like, you know, the best thing that could happen if it was somebody that's scared of dogs, they would go, oh, go away, because then the dog's not going to do it. But generally people will put their hands down, so if they've had a roast dinner or if they've had dog treats themselves, the dog gets all the smells, then it gets jumped up, oh, it doesn't matter, and then you recall your dog, your dog comes successfully, so then you reward it. So it's had a whole long list of having lots of fun just for running in. So, you know, if you've got the problem out and it's running in and jumping up at people, I would go back onto it, not a retractable lead, just a long line. Reward your dog for being with you, play with your dog, do stuff with your dog so that your dog's used to you having interaction, and you're more excited than everything else. And then kind of practice recall away from distraction so that it's used to coming in. You can train your dogs out of it, but you've got to be 100%, this is what we're going to do. Dog on the lead for meets and greets indoors. At no time must you cuddle your dog for jumping up, and that's tough. So I would kind of go onto a whole training regime where actually the dog's pleased is perhaps a sit. So, you know, get into the habit of taking your hands and kind of folding them, and then if the dog takes sit, then it comes up for a cuddle. If it doesn't get that cuddle. And then long line when you're out, to try and stop behaviour when you're out.
Excellent. And something else that comes up a lot, and I don't know whether even using, there must be lots of different types of biting a dog can do, but nipping with puppies we get quite a lot.
Okay, biting is a whole big subject. So firstly, I won't deal with aggressive issues. You know, if somebody says on social media or contacts me that my dog's being aggressive, I won't advise on that until I do.
How do people know that their dog's being aggressive as opposed to playing or something else?
I have a no contact rule. So some trainers do have soft bite, hard bite rule. To me, family pets shouldn't make contact with your skin at all. And I believe that way it's a straight black and white guideline for you and your dog. If you make contact with me, whatever we're doing, it stops. I've not seen, and it's not to say that it's not happened, but I've not seen a successful dog have a hard and soft bite. I don't get into any of the protection or, you know, any of that stuff. So I'm sure there are lots of trainers that can do that. But I think for family pets, which is kind of generally what I deal with, it's really important just to have that black and white so there's no grey area. So I will teach a puppy to not make contact with my skin with a toy. So I'll be playing with a toy, whether it be in a little tug game or a little kind of pull away, just so that they're playing. Generally, pups they'll nip for two reasons. Firstly, they've made a mistake, okay? Secondly, they'll nip so that you drop the toy, because that's what they may do with another puppy. So if they want that toy, they might bite the legs. If they want attention, they might bite the legs and that sort of thing. It's dog behaviour, it's not aggressive behaviour. Lots of people suddenly panic because they've got, oh my God, you know, my dog's bitten me and I've got an aggressive issue. That's not aggressive. That's just the dog's exploring everything with their mouth. I set this up, you know, so it's not just done by chance. It is playing, but it isn't just done by chance. I set it up, I'll have a little game with them. If they make contact with my hand, I will stop immediately. So if we're tugging or I've got a ball, I'll just stop. So dogs are reactive learners. So if your reaction is to stop, they'll want to do something to start that game again. Generally what happens is their teeth will then move back to the toy, then I'll start again. Okay. I would probably only do that with a pet dog a couple of times a week, you know.
Is there an age that you should start that or stop that?
Not really, no. A lot of people don't like tugging with their dogs because, you know, you read about aggressive problems caused by tugging. That doesn't happen. What happens is the adrenaline raises. So when the adrenaline raises, you've got to go in with a stricter boundary. Some of the top agility trainers don't even train a leave, you know, they'll want their dogs having that level of adrenaline, which is absolutely fine for purpose, but as a pet you don't want that level of adrenaline. You know, you want to be able to say drop and your dog drops immediately. So as long as you're not physically harming your pup in any way. So with a young pup, obviously you have to be careful of teeth falling out, have to be careful of joints because you don't want to cause your dog any problem. But a little game, you know, even a little tug game, absolutely fine, even from a young age. I started from day one because it gives me good manners. And also you can sort your jumping out as well, because if you pick the toy up and the dog jumps up for you and successfully gets it, then you've reinforced the jumping up. So I do lots of stuff in play from the early days. If you've got a dog that was the strongest in the litter, so you're playing this game and you're realising that it's not nipping by mistake or nipping just to see it, but it's actually like, do you know what, I really want that toy, and it's actually biting. The worst thing you can do is release the toy. Okay, and lots of people do that because it's hurt, you know, and I kind of get that. I do get that, and I wouldn't want kids to do this or anything like that. The dog is experimenting, so if it's been part of the litter and it's been used to bossing everybody around, it's been used to biting harder, I would reprimand. Now, some trainer, this is where, you know, everyone's going to go, oh my God, my trainer's not told me to do this. And, you know, I train good manners. So I'm not one side or the other. So I don't go, everything's got to be food, let's ignore all the bad. You know, I do ignore a lot of bad behaviour, praise a lot of the good behaviour. I don't use adverse methods, so I don't use anything physical. I do expect my dogs to be good mannered. And if I say, oi, it stops. With puppies, you can really tell their temperaments. So with one of mine, I was just able to go like that and it would just stop immediately. You may get, I see a lot of, I know we're going to talk about this separately, but I see a lot of cockapoos that will just keep coming in because poodles like the argument. They want you to rouse. So unless you go, oi, no, stop immediately, kind of headmaster type stays, they're going to keep coming. You know, and by having that kind of strong boundary, if they're really biting at you, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. If you drop it, the next time it's going to be harder. And I'm not suggesting that you have a face-off with your dog, you know, it's just a boundary. We're playing a nice little game. The second their teeth move, and they will, if you get it right, they will move, then you can start to play again. So that's kind of puppy biting. Do go for the screen, that does work, you know. So that is one of the successful things on Google. So if a puppy like nips you and you go ah! Like that, it does work, you know. They may try it again in a few weeks and just say, is it still going to happen? You know, it is a really good thing to do. As the dog reaches adolescence, if you've got a dog that I would say is hard mouthing. So by hard mouthing, excuse me, I don't mean to touch it, but by hard mouthing, it's trying to sort of move you to do things, but it's not it's not making an impact into your skin with the teeth. What it's trying to do is take control. It's trying to move you. It's like, I don't want you to do that, I want to do that, I'm doing it with my mouth. Now that's very different. That to me is a dog that hasn't had strong enough boundaries in the beginning. Lots of people come to me at that point and say, should I get my dog castrated? My dog's trying to control me. No, it's not going to disappear. Your dog needs stronger rules, stronger manners. It could be bored, you know, it could not be getting enough mental stimulation, not enough physical stimulation. So it's trying to move you. It's like, come on, let's do this. Legs is a really common one because they know that you walk with legs. So if they get hold of your legs, you're going to move. I would kind of want to do a behaviour visit with that. And I would look at the whole package holistically. So by that, I go through what they're being fed on, making sure that they've got no artificial additives in their food. Are they getting good physical exercise? Are they getting trained? Are their boundaries strong enough? Is there an and then generally I get them in training and we'll get replacement behaviours. So whenever you're trying to train your dog something, so if you don't want it to jump up, what do you want to do instead? Or I want it to sit, or you know, I don't want it to bite me, you know, to get my attention I want it to sit, good dog, well done, good sit, good sit. So you reinforce everything that you want but put the boundary on.
Okay, excellent.
Any breaking of skin, behaviour visit straight away.
Yeah, okay.